It's 5 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Next item is roll call of members. Jason, will you please do a roll call?
Sarah Sarda.
Here.
Terry Crandall. Here. Kathy Greenaway.
Present.
Franny Kiefer.
Here.
Jill Sternquist.
All right, we have all our members, so we do have a quorum. We'll move on to item number 2, approval of our agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Jason.
Kiefer.
Yes.
Sternquist.
Yes.
Crandall. Yes. Greenaway.
Yes.
Sarda.
Yes. Item number 3, approval of our minutes of the November 9th regular school board meeting and our November 23rd special school board meeting.
I move we approve the minutes of both meetings as presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Jason.
Crandall.
Yes.
Sternquist.
Yes.
Greenaway.
Yes.
Kiefer.
Yes.
Sarda.
Yes. Item number 4 is our approval of the conflict of interest. Now is the time if any board member has an indirect or direct conflict to disclose it at this time. Hearing none, we'll go on to item number 5, consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please. Jason?
Crandall.
Yes.
Kiefer.
Yes.
Sternquist.
Yes.
Greenaway.
Yes.
Sarda.
Yes. Moving on to public comment. Jason, did we have anybody signed up to do public comment for this evening?
We did not.
Okay. We will move on to item number 7, our good news and student achievement. Dr. Jonke and Dr. Olson will be presenting.
Well, hello everybody. It's been a while, so it's nice to see everybody here. I just have something quick for the middle school. The middle schoolers have not lost their spunk and their enthusiasm. So this week we are starting our door decorating contest, so which is something great that we can do. The middle school, we didn't get to do homecoming and some other fun activities, so we brought back the door decorating contest, which will start this week. And there's grade level winners. Mr. D was gonna and myself are gonna be the judges. And so anyway, the kids are really excited. I've never had so much enthusiasm for red and green construction paper. But so it should be a good thing to bring back a little social distancing, but yet have some fun before we finish off the semester. So that's really all I have to talk about. Everything's going great at the middle school, and we're just happy to still be here. So thank you.
Good evening. Last Monday night, the 3 bands held a concert at Yankton High School right here in the theater. The cadet band went at 6 o'clock, the concert band went at 6:45, and the symphonic band went at 7:30. And during the concert band, Mr. Carr was talking about a young man, his name is Owen, who kept saying to him, "I know Auld Lang Syne. I know the words to the song. Can I sing with the band?" And he kept saying, "No, no, no." That day during dress rehearsal, Mr. Carr said, "You know what, go ahead and sing." And he shared it, and he sang in the concert, and it was pretty fantastic. So I thought it would be fun to play that part of the concert tonight, so you get to hear one of their songs and Owen sing. So Jason, if you could cue it up, please, we'll get to all enjoy that.
He stuck it.
All right, thank you very much. I did happen to go to the band concert, and it's just nice to see how well they're doing with the modifications that we've asked of them, and just to see it in action. And it's sort of the busy parent's dream concert. You zip in just to see your kids and zip out, but you don't get to see the whole thing, but it certainly was well done. They did a very, very good job. Move on to our legislative preview. We're fortunate to have all of our representatives here today, and they will give us a preview of the upcoming legislative session. And I think I'll just go in alphabetical order and have Representative Ryan Schwab speak first.
Thank you, and good evening, and thank you for inviting me. Can you hear me all right? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we've got another legislative session coming up. I want to thank you for inviting me, and this year as it relates to education, you know, I think we're going to see a lot of the same kind of challenges and opportunities from years past as it relates to the legislature. The governor announced 2.4%. At the beginning, which is certainly in terms of the inflation increase, which is certainly an improvement over past years. And I think there'll still be quite a push for that, because to see that go higher, because there's a significant amount of dollars in play. And that's kind of my big takeaway for this legislative session, is there is a significant amount of money out there because the CARES Act allowed the state to move some money around to make that an opportunity. Legislatively, outside of the money issues, I guess in my observation is those more controversial issues dealing with transgendered students, things of, and sports, those seem to be pushed a little bit more aggressively in the year after the election, when you have a new crop of legislators and a new group of people to test that vote. So I think, I guess I wasn't, even though those have been defeated in every election or every session, I don't foresee that those are going to go away until those particular legislators decide to stop bringing those bills. I see Mike's on the Education Committee, which I think is great. I'll let him talk a little bit more in detail about that and kind of what he's hearing already on that. I serve on Judiciary and Local Government, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have for me specifically about the upcoming session.
Ryan, when does the CARES Act come to an end?
My understanding is all the money has to be spent by the end of the year, and we still have approximately $350 million that still has not been spent. They
Say the number again.
What? 350 million, I believe, is what I saw. And Jerry, you can quote Gene on that exact number. But they keep retooling that program. There was a program put together for small businesses to apply for grants and other entities, and they keep retooling that and hoping that that will be a way to spend it down. Question I have for you is, financially with the CARES Act, do you feel like you've been made whole in terms of all the added expenses that you've had to take on, all the additional tasks?
I could probably comment on that. Probably. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. But
There we go. There. Just need somebody to show me what to do. Thank you. So, apparently this thing doesn't want me to speak. So, you know, we have allocated all of our CARES money, and by the end of this month, we will have either spent or it will be allocated. We still have some ESSER funds that we have held back on because those have a date, I think, of September of 2022. And so we've put some of those aside because I don't think any of us knows for sure what COVID will bring for next school year. But we've ordered a lot of supplies for COVID, you know, to finish out this school year. I would mention a couple of things that I think would be very helpful, and I just don't think it's for Yankton. I think it's for schools across the state. I think it'd be really nice if the legislature would consider having a discussion perhaps about, they have a lot of one-time money right now, as you said, and you know, we found out going online that we have some infrastructure needs that still need to be addressed. We have some technology needs. We would have never, ever imagined that we would tax our kitchen equipment like we have throughout the district. You know, that ran all of last school year, all summer, and no let up going into the school year. And we have found that there are some needs even in our food service. So I think there are some one-time needs out there that schools could really benefit from additional CARES money.
Okay. I certainly appreciate that, and I think that's a debate we need to have in terms of the CARES Act money does end at the end of the year and when it needs to be spent. But so much of our surplus is a direct result of the CARES Act money coming into state government. And, you know, the governor's made her proposal. One of the things I think we really need to look at, because I think you know it and I know it, COVID's not ending when the CARES Act funding ends. We're still going to have those problems, and it's still going to be causing some long-term issues, so I appreciate that comment. Dr. Kindle? Any other comments for me?
Maybe
Otherwise-
just a question to tag on to that. So the state needs to spend their CARES money by the end of the year, but does that also mean the recipient needs to spend it by the end of the year, or do they have a little more flexibility?
No, I think they have more flexibility. If it's still in the state government checking account by the end of the year, it's supposed to go back to the federal government. So, well, I really want to commend all of you for all the great work you've done, not only with COVID, but just in continuing to educating our students. One of the great things about being a state representative up there is you guys make Yankton look really good. Our school district is constantly being talked about up there as being one of the leaders. And I'm not just saying this to be nice to Dr. Kindle, but it's true. The other school administrators, superintendents up there, when I talk to them, they say, "Where are you from?" Yankton. And they just say, "Well, do whatever Wayne says." So he's clearly got a tremendous amount of respect, as does the school district up there, and it's because of all the hard work you guys do and your real willingness to just go out and do it instead of waiting. So thank you. Dr. Kindle is very good at communicating with me throughout the session, but if any of you ever need to reach out to me, best way when I'm up there is just my email, brian.schwach@sdlegislature.gov. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Senator Jean Hanoff.
Good evening. First, I owe an apology to you. I am not IT savvy. I shut the sound off on my phone, so I don't know why it keeps going on. So I never allow that in my committee, and I thank you for your tolerance for that. Well, I think you're asking very good questions. You know that I am co-chair of joint appropriations, so I will be the one that will be working with how we allocate the resources and how we facilitate that bill through the legislature. I just think some things that are out there. One of the things I'd like to see from my school district, Yankton, and I don't need it tonight, but at least before I get back to Pierre, I'd like an accounting of how you expended the dollars, because you've got so many dollars, and I think that's part of the discussion, how many dollars and where they've gone to. I don't need a line by line, but just some kind of categories. If you did it for protective equipment, if you did it for in-service teachers, or if you did it for bringing staff on, put it in some kind of categories that can break down with all the dollars that have come through. Because I will tell you on appropriations, and as we've been meeting, we're just seeing the global numbers on that first part that went out. So the last 400 million, really, we were able to engage in that and make some recommendations to the governor, but the rest of the dollars that's been allocated out, we know you've got the 500 per student, so that would help very much. And I know that I will be asking my other appropriator colleagues to go back to their school districts so we can get an idea across the state, because they're different, on that. I know there's a sense there, and I think that Representative Schwach asked the right question. What are the additional things? You identify technology and you identify equipment. If there's anything else that's out there that we're not accounting for. Personally, I'm interested in how has the impact been on the children in the education, in the sense that you've done both face and you've done some online. I'd like to know about numbers, in the sense, did some children opt to do homeschool, go drop out, attend Christian school, or whatever, as far as what your students. So again, I'm trying to build a broad base so I have good understanding of that. With the dollars that are out there, what are the priorities? Again, the governor is just a budget to begin. That's her recommendations, and so that's the starting point. So what will happen in the process is, between the House and the Senate, we will be looking at what she has suggested, find out, is there consensus on some of those items? If they're not, are there other ideas that are out there what to use? I think I'd have to say, in all my years in the legislature, I've never had all these dollars to have to decide how we're going to allocate those resources with the one-time dollars, with the amount that we've had. And of course, those are savings from COVID dollars that went for staffing, many of the departmental agencies. So if the COVID dollars were going in there, then those dollars that had been allocated in the general fund are falling back so that we could use those. So those are, and of course the one-time funding, again, you can only do it for one time, one project or whatever, so that makes it a challenge. And you all know what those projects out there that the governor has identified. I think there'll be some other ideas that will be surfacing out there. Again, probably higher ed and technical colleges have some wish lists that they would like to see some additional dollars go for. And again, the schools are going to have to advocate. She's got the 2.4. She's pretty set on that. I will be honest about that. But we've got to have the documentation as to what those needs are. Like I said, at the end of the day, what really is. She's doing the broadband. I think that's going to be a debatable topic out there in order to get that. That benefits all South Dakotans, not only education, but that's tourism, that's also economic development, the whole broad wax of that. So I think that'll be another area that there'll be certainly more continued dialogue about that. I will be honest with you, I don't have any bills that I'm bringing, just maybe a couple, just some cleanup things, but I'm really going to focus on how we allocate and how we can get consensus built up between the three bodies that make the final decision how we expend those dollars. So it's really important that we have good data and good representation in peer to present. Just to talk about that, which is a little bit different, is how's peer going to work? If you're reading the papers, quite a few of my Senate colleagues have now been exposed to COVID, or have been, and a couple have when we were in peer for the budget address. I will tell you, there are some generic rules that are going to be implemented out there. I know that the face mask is certainly a controversial topic. It is not going to be mandatory. It is still optional for the legislators. And there are some things that they're doing overall. I will tell you, in joint appropriations, I've got my co-chair to concur with me. I can't force the masks. I can't, because that's just the optional part, but I'm going to highly recommend, and those of us that wear masks will wear masks. We're looking at some face mask types, so if we're in committee all day and on the floor, those works better. I'm going to ask, and I've been assured that each of the legislators, any people that are coming to testify, there will be either spray bottles or there will be cloths that you're going to be responsible for wiping off your chairs before and after. If you come to the podium to testify, you're going to wipe off that podium. You're also going to wipe off the microphone. Anybody that comes in to testify is going to be masked. That's just going to be a requirement. I can mandate that, but I can't do anything else. We will do social distancing in appropriations, and so only so many people will be allowed. And so if we may have to change our format for accepting testimony, because usually we go through the proponents and the opponents, but if there's people waiting in the hallway that want to testify, we may change that. That will be doing questioning after each testimony. But the person would come in, how many will be allowable based on the social distancing, and then one gets done testifying, after questioning, they'll leave and another person come in. So if there are those days where we have a lot of lobbyists, they will be in the hallway until we get those. I will tell you the other thing that's challenging is getting support staff for the legislature. People do not want to come in. So, for example, the secretary in Approps, if she is going to come back, she will not be present in the room. She will be in an adjacent room. It'll be locked, or not locked, but the door will be closed, and you can only access if you have a mask on. And it'll be the responsibility of the co-chair and myself to enforce that. But that's the only way that I can get staff to come into that area. As far as legislative staff from our office, they will not be present in the room. They'll be in their offices with their doors closed, but they'll be accessible hearing and everything. So the reason I'm telling you this, it's going to be different. If you come to testify, now online, teams are going to be set up. You certainly can testify online, so I would take those opportunities if you don't want to make the trip to Pierre, but just want to warn you that there could be a slowing of the process so that, again, to me, risk management to protect anybody that comes into that Capitol is my key thing, so I want to certainly assure that. Again, I thank you for this opportunity. If you have specific questions, I'll try and answer them.
I don't have a question, but I just want to make sure that you understand something and that you all understand that. I don't mean this to be a lecture either, for sure. But I do want to say that one thing you can't quantify in a spreadsheet or whatever is the amount of stress that's been placed on our educators, administrators, support staff, and staff. They've gone through, I'll say it, hell this year, so far, in order to educate our students, and they've done so much you really can't quantify. So I want to keep that in mind, that our students and staff and teachers are really under a lot of pressure right now, and we need to appreciate that, Gene.
And I do. They're front line, just like the healthcare personnel are front line, and I think the importance is here that you're trying to make face-to-face education a possibility. That seems to be the best route, and you're doing excellent. So yes, there is stress there. You can't measure it, but you also know that that always is a challenge. So we've got to, take that into consideration. What are the resources that are there that we can provide if that's needed for the school systems? I heartily agree. Thank you for that comment. Any other questions?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Representative Mike Stevens.
Well, I must tell you that when I walked in here, I didn't recognize anybody, and I thought you guys were on in-school suspension. This year, I will be serving on as Vice Chairman of Judiciary as well as on Education. Those are two committees that I requested to serve on, and so I was very fortunate to get on those. Part of the thing for me coming back is to realize that about 2/3 of the legislators, I don't know who they are. Every year there's about a third turnover, and so I was out 2 years, and then I ran this year, and so part of the big things that I will be doing is trying to reestablish and make relationships with all the new legislators, and that's really important to do, and it's even more important, I think, in as much as so much is being changed. I spent a day and a half in Pierre this last week, where they're trying to do virtually everything with your computer, which really takes out the personal one-to-one touch that you have, which all of you know how that's so important when you're trying to build relationships and trying to share your ideas with people and your personal experiences. This doing the little text, little messages just doesn't cut it for me, and so that's going to be a real change, I think, for everybody. But I think it's still very important and is essential that Yankton continues to have a presence in Pierre. I don't know exactly yet what they're going to be doing as it relates to, the activities afterwards. I know the chamber's still looking at maybe doing something, but, having people walk through the halls just so they know, because legislators will say, well, who is that person? I say, well, that's the superintendent of Yankton. Just having that little touch, I think, is still very important. And I know that Ryan and Jean will both say, as I have during the time that I've served, these little notes that I get in emails from Wayne, and I know I've got them from most of you too, that's very important to keep up. I mean, anywhere it's around 450 or 500 bills that come through, and obviously not all of them are educational bills, but there are things that come up that, that sometimes we're so busy trying to juggle everything that it's really nice to get the input. And I know that when I've talked to other legislators, giving them personal examples of how that impacts your city, how that impacts your school is so effective, much more so, I think, than just nearly numbers. And so, those little things, as you said, even if it's just a little blurb, I think is very helpful. I haven't heard of any specific educational bills that have come up, although I did get a bill today that deals not only just with the school districts, but with cities where there's some legislation about some liability caps or protection because of the COVID, which includes the school. So I know that'll be up for discussion, which will be a big idea. I know in talking with a couple of other legislators, their school districts are real concerned about how the marijuana laws will impact and the schools and what rules and regulations, and I think that's really too early to tell, where that's coming. And I don't know enough of the legislators, haven't met them well enough to know, their positions on some of these things. So I would guess that those, Gene, would they not come through the Rules Committee, some of that stuff, eventually?
Eventually they'll get to rules.
Yeah. And so, I've heard a lot of legislators talking about that. I'm going to bring some bills dealing with those type of laws. One thing maybe, Gene, you could talk a little bit, I forgot to, I don't want to mess it up as far as it, but the amount of money that the governor is allocating towards the rainy day fund versus the trust fund, there's a difference in how, if that money is put into the rainy day, the vote takes, what is a 2/3 vote to take the money out of that, but it's only, or is it the other way around?
It's the other way around. She wants to put 50 million in a trust fund. If you put that in the trust fund, she's looking at, I believe, the healthcare trust fund. It takes 2/3 of both houses to pull that money out. You put the 50 million in there, you're looking at about 4 million interest per year coming off of that fund, and that, that's where money we use for the general fund. Going from 10 to 12% is a simple majority, because all you're doing is putting the money in that rainy day fund, and then she's been drawing money for some of the projects that she's had in the past out of that, if we were exceeding the 10%, and that dollars were then available. But by statute, we have 10%, so I don't know if we have to change the statute if we increase it up. That's the piece I don't know.
Yeah, and so that's an important part when you're looking at that one-time money, how much of that's allocated to each one of them, because obviously 2/3 is a pretty easy vote to get to beat. I mean, it's pretty hard. It's pretty easy to stop somebody taking money out when it's a 2/3. That's not very many votes. And so, there needs to be some lobbying in that way, particularly when you're talking about some of the one-time money. One of the things that's changed too is that we have a new Secretary of Education, and I've dealt with her in the past, Tiffany Sanderson. She's very, very bright. I think she'll be a real good advocate for the school systems. I think some of her expertise has been more in the VOTEC and technical school type of things, but very bright person, lots of energy, and I think she'd be very approachable in that regard. Otherwise, I think, it's still early in the game. I think everybody needs to understand that when the governor does her budget, she's required to do that. This is her, I don't want to say wish list, but that's what her idea is. And then we go from there, and the legislature eventually has to approve whatever there is. So there's still lots of time to put things together. I think that's a really good idea as far as, trying to deal with one-time money, and you got to make sure that you do understand that, and we appreciate that, is you know, the one-time money is so much more different than an ongoing, as you guys know, in your own budget. And so the thing with the cafeteria and those type of equipments, that's not something that I've heard before. So I think that's really a good idea to bring those type of things up. So otherwise, I think these guys have really covered it well, unless anybody has any questions.
I did have a quick question for any of the three of you. She did allocate $11 million of, again, one-time money, and I think it had something to do with enrollment. Has there been any more specifics about that $11 million, how that might be allocated to schools?
Unless Gene has had, I've not received any additional.
What that is about is students that you have lost, and that's what I said about if they opted out to go to homeschool, or they've opted out to go to another school, a faith-based school. So for simple purposes, you lost 10 students out of the Yankton School District. What she's looking at is providing dollars for those 10 students that you lost. Now, the formula, I cannot tell you what that formula is going to be. If it's the same formula we're looking at 11 million, because I have no idea how many students she's talking about, but that's the intent. So I won't surmise, because I don't know, but I would think logic would say if you lost, I don't remember what the formula gives you now, but if you lost those 10 students and you took it times that formula, then that what would be coming back to the schools. But I have not heard what formula she's going to use, but that's the intent.
When you say lost, Gene, you mean like they've gone to just a private school, or if they moved from Yankton to Gayville, is that a lost student?
No, it wouldn't be if what do you call that?
Open enrollment.
Open enrollment. No, I'm saying is if you had that decided to homeschool, that they were now they decided to homeschool. So you're not getting paid for that student any longer. Or if they transfer to a faith-based or Christian school, you're not getting that student's rate. You're not getting that student rate. You lost that student. So she's trying to replace those that you've lost for those reasons.
It's more a conceptual thing at this point. There's not been any rules or regulations or formula for you to even figure out whether or not you qualify or not at this point. But she's set it aside, which you got to give her credit. At least she recognizes that, and that's good. Whether or not that'll help us or not, I think it's way too early to tell. Well, thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for taking the time and effort to come and visit with us this evening, and for all the work you're going to do throughout the session. We appreciate it, and you've been great advocates for education, and hopefully we'll continue that. Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, and it is rezoning of property. There is a typo on this in that it is discussion, but this will require action this evening. And we have Jim Tramp, who is here to discuss this, or?
While Jim is making his way to the podium, I'll just introduce what we're doing here. So you'll recall at the November school board meeting, we had a petition that was brought before the board, also from Jim Tramp, as owner and developer of land here just to the west of what is now the track and athletic complex. Basically moving that from R2 single-family housing to zone it as multifamily housing. So this is actually a second petition, and it's in the same general area, moving the single-family zone for this particular plot to being business zoning. So Jim has been invited to the meeting tonight and has had conversation with Dr. Kendall, and we've talked about some of these petitions and what that means to the school district. So we just thought it would be best if Jim himself would come and be able to answer any questions from the school board before we consider the second petition.
I just want to say that I was able to
petition
the planning commission, or not planning commission, but the grounds and building meeting the day when this plan was presented to that committee. And I talked to Dave Minkle prior to that meeting, and this usage that you're requesting is absolutely within the scope of what that property should be used for. So I think there's absolutely no question as to your request is proper.
So I'm a little hard of hearing, but we
So
just,
am I.
we'd just like to have you sign a petition that will allow the city to have the hearing on the rezoning. So if there's any issues that come up, the hearing would probably be in the spring. And it, you know, it would allow just, allow to be built along 21st Street, either be apartments or maybe an office complex or something like that, but not knowing right now what it would be, but we'd like to go through the Okay. We just asked, the school owns actually two pieces of property that's affected by this. One would be the school deal, and the other one is the center across 21st Street. So I'd be glad to answer any questions if I can hear them.
I was just curious if you have a plan for the, business that would be in that area?
I have no plans right now. I'm just, we're planning on building houses along Dakota Street. You may have seen the sewer and water being put in out there. And before we get a bunch of houses there, we'd like to be upfront with the people and let them know that what could happen on the other side of the waterway there.
Is there any other discussion? Terry, you said there was a building and grounds committee?
Right, there was a meeting, and I also talked to Dave Mango, the city planner, and it absolutely conforms with the intended use of that property. So, no issues with the city. And this is just a discussion item, is that correct?
This is an action item.
Okay, then I move we approve the rezoning request.
Okay.
The petition for the rezoning request, I should say.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please, Jason.
Crandall?
Yes.
Sternquist?
Yes.
Kiefer?
Yes.
Greenaway? Sorda?
Yes. Our next item on agenda is early release. We had said that we would put this on our December agenda to figure out how it is working, and today we have an update. Dr. Kindle, do you want to talk about the meeting that was held?
Yes, I can. So just as a reminder, back in September, we had a special school board meeting on the 28th, and we talked quite a bit about this, the early Friday release. And we said at the time that if the board approved it, which they did, that we would come back at this board meeting and determine whether or not we should move forward with the same concept for third quarter. So we had a Zoom meeting which included the first group of staff that we had gathered back in September to talk about their concerns at the time. And I think the biggest concern they had back in September was they were really being taxed with having enough time to get all the things done that they need to get done in a school day. And we heard them loud and clear when we had that September meeting. We had quite a few staff members here. A number of them spoke, and the board approved it. We met again about 2 weeks ago, and actually Franny was part of that meeting. And I'm going to just ask Franny to kind of summarize what she thought came out of that meeting from another perspective.
No, it's a great representation of all of our buildings. They're equally represented, and administration was on there, and it was a completely different point of view that we heard. It was just being able to take time to communicate with all of those online learners, also preparing lessons and everything for the multiple different facets that the teachers are teaching with. And so it's not solving everything, and I think staff are still really going above and beyond and still putting in extra hours, but it has alleviated a little bit of the stress. And so it was kind of unanimous that they would like to continue the Friday afternoon early release through the third quarter.
The other thing that came out of that meeting was just, which we were grateful to hear, that it really helped staff morale, that people felt a lot better about where we were at. And I just think it was really good to hear the feedback and to know that the time that is being allowed is being used the way it should, which we had no question that it wouldn't. I think what I took away from there too is that we finally, some of the teachers had some time to be with family like they should be able to in the evenings and on the weekends. And I know that that isn't always true, but I think it has certainly helped. And so what we did here is we put together a revised calendar which would reflect the third quarter, where we would continue the Friday noon release. And that's what's on the agenda for tonight, is for the board to determine if they want to move forward with the revised agenda. And then I know we have some administrators. If anybody would want to make a comment, you're sure welcome to.
My comment would be, I think we clearly know that the teachers appreciate it and it has helped, especially during this time where there's so much more put upon them. I have heard kind of universally positive comments about it. I'm just wondering, have we heard at all from parents about daycare and everything for that Friday afternoon and that's being an issue? I just haven't heard that at all.
I have not,
Okay,
and I don't know that any of the principals, I have not gotten any feedback that has been negative. I think probably, you know, once we have started this, I think the first couple of times we're just getting used to it, but I think now that we're doing it, I really feel that our parents have seen the need for it, and they too appreciate what our staff has been able to do, having that extra time during the day on Friday.
Thank you. That was my impression. I just wanted to make sure that we're covering all those bases. Any more discussion about the early release?
If we do approve the early release through the third quarter, would there be a meeting date in which we'll decide the fourth quarter?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Crandall. I think what we would do is probably, we could take a look at perhaps the March school board meeting or February. I don't have those dates right in front of me, but I think it would be worth coming back again before the third quarter ends, and we'll know much more then as to what we're facing for fourth quarter.
And I would have moved that we approve the early release extension until the end of the third quarter. With that revisited at the March school board meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please, Jason.
Crandall?
Yes.
Kiefer?
Yes.
Sternquist?
Yes.
Greenaway?
Yes.
Sarda?
Yes. Moving on to item 11, rapid testing. Kathy Wagner is here to give us an update.
Good evening. It's bad when your colleagues start calling you COVID Kathy.
Typhoid Terry.
What? Oh, yeah, that's not good either. So I'm here tonight to give an update on the usage of the Abbott Binax Now COVID-19 rapid testing. Following the October school board meeting, we started preparing to go forward with the plan to begin. We had a little delay in the PPE and the testing kits, and we needed to get the nurses trained. Thank goodness Liz Healy came and did some training for us at that time. Since then, we got going on November 2nd, I believe, was the first week that we started. And then since then, we've been able to test symptomatic students and staff students with parent permission, of course. And so that's been going on for about 5 weeks. And the school nurses have given 60 rapid tests within that period of time, which is a good number, because I know one of our concerns was, we didn't want students to come to school sick. So I felt that that was a pretty good number. Out of that number, 48 were students and 12 were staff that received that particular test. Even more interesting, I thought, 58 of them were negative and only 2 were positive. So that's also a good thing. So it's my recommendation to continue to offer the Binax Now COVID-19 rapid testing as an option for parents and for staff who are symptomatic while they're at school. If they become, I need to rephrase that, if they become symptomatic at school. I will add one more thing. I did check with the nurses. I wanted to know from them firsthand how things were going as far as their time. One of our full-time nurses said, thank heavens for the part-time nurses. So that was a good thing that came out of that CARES Act money, that we were able to get additional nursing staff. But they also wanted to recognize the fact that principals and secretaries are also doing a lot of contact tracing, calling, and we don't have a nurse in every building all the time, but it has been a tremendous help, and they are getting things done that they need to get done, and it doesn't seem to be a hindrance to their regular responsibilities. Any questions?
My comment would be, just by sitting in on those COVID advisory meetings, it seems to be a general consensus. This is a good thing that we're doing, not just for our students, but the community. Is there any other questions or comments from the board?
The test 100% accurate.
Pardon?
Test 100% accurate. Any false positives or false negatives?
If we've been told that if it is positive, if truly positive, there are some false negatives in this type of test. So they might not have enough antigen within their body at that point in time, which I think is probably why. I don't know how many of those students that we tested ended up turning positive, or if it was some other ailment.
All right, thank you very much. We did say we would review this and reevaluate it, so this is an action item.
I'll make a motion that we continue to offer the Abbott antigen testing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Jason.
Sternquist?
Yes.
Kiefer?
Yes.
Greenaway?
Yes.
Crandall?
Yes.
Sarda?
Yes. Item number 12, the Yankton High School course catalog. Dr. Jonke is here to talk to us about the course catalog.
The Yankton High School department chairs reviewed the course catalog that we used during for registration for the 2021 school year, and they reviewed that over the month of November to look to see if there needed to be changes to what we would offer for the 21-22 school year. And we have very, very few changes to the course catalog that we utilized for registration a year ago. And those changes simply included prerequisites for some of our career and technical education classes to help students know what classes they needed prior to enrolling into a class. So for example, for general service tech, they really needed to use Intro to Vehicle Maintenance. For Intro to Building Trades, they really need to go through cabinetry first. So further clarifying the sequence in those courses to ensure that they had the skills necessary to enter into those courses. Otherwise, the remainder of the course catalog remained the same. So it would be my recommendation to adopt this course handbook so that the counselors can start working on registration for the 21-22 school year.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Right, hearing none, this is an action item.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021-2022 Yankton High School course catalog as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Jason?
Kiefer,
Yes.
Sternquist,
Yes.
Crandall? Yes. Greenaway?
Yes.
Sarda?
Yes. Final item on our agenda is adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Jason?
Sternquist?
Yes.
Kiefer,
Yes.
Greenaway?
Yes.
Crandall? Sarda?
Yes. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.